This brings up, what about Sheikh Khalid Mohammed? We still haven't got a decision where that trial is going to be, and that's touched off a whole flurry of controversy, whether he should be tried here in New York or not. He is the one who is a self-proclaimed mastermind of 9/11, right, and the administration has not yet made a decision.
Yeah, the administration made a decision, backed away, and now they can't make another decision. Last November 9th, I believe it was, Eric Holder, the Attorney General, said that the trial of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed would be held in Lower Manhattan. Then in February, they said they were reconsidering, and they have not made a decision. If they're waiting until after the election, this is wrong. The American people should know where this trial is going to be, whether it's going to be a civilian trial or a military trial, whether it's going to be in New York or Peoria or Milwaukee or Los Angeles or where they intend to hold it. To me, this clearly belongs in a military tribunal. It belongs in Guantanamo. It never belongs in New York City. What this is going to cost is hundreds of $millions in security. It's going to cut off almost all of Lower Manhattan. Areas such as Chinatown, I think, are going to go out of business. Residents living in that area are going to be subjected almost to martial law. That's how bad this is going to be.
Well, it was proposed that they use a prison out in Thompson, Illinois.
Right.
And my understanding is that the Republicans have stymied the efforts. The federal government wanted to buy that prison, right, have this trial in some remote location. Why have the Republicans been so opposed to that?
Because I don't believe these trials should be held on the mainland at all. They should not be held in civilian courts. They should be held in a military tribunal, and the ideal place for that is Guantanamo. If it doesn't belong in New York, the people of Thompson, Illinois shouldn't have to put up with it either. And I just think it's wrong to set the precedent of putting the mastermind, the evil architect of September 11th, to allow him to get full constitutional rights in an American civilian court, and also to have it in New York. To go back to that, we are already the #1 target in the world, but to have Khalid Sheikh Mohammed on trial here, and that trial we won for years, would make just New York be clearly a target, and the risk of that is just ridiculous.
You've used strong words in your criticism of the Obama administration. You've said, you accused them of being guilty of criminal negligence, and they've mishandled this from the very outset.
And the reason I say that is that when Eric Holder announced on November 9th that he was going to have this trial in New York with all of the attendant risk that goes with it, he had never spoken to Commissioner Kelly, never spoke to the New York Police Department to find out what the security issues are going to be, never spoke to the Federal Court Protective Service to see if they had the personnel to even secure the perimeter of the courts. To make a decision like this was an ideologically driven decision, to make it without even speaking to the head of law enforcement in New York, without speaking to the mayor, the police commissioner, the state police, anyone. To me, that was criminal negligence, yes.
So you don't feel the decision will be made until after the election?
It's going to be made after the election, and, you know, I didn't always agree with Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel wanted the trial out of New York. He wanted, I understand, a military tribunal, certainly one out of New York. I don't know what Eric Holder is an ideologically driven attorney general.
I have to ask you this, Congressman, because right after you were critical of the Faisal Shahzad case and the handling of it, law enforcement sources came back and they were critical of you. Mm-hmm. And they said, they pointed a finger and said, you,
right,
Pete King, you're responsible for the leaks in this case. How do you respond to that?
First of all, I don't believe it's a law enforcement official. I believe it's some coward hiding in the White House. And I said, whoever said that is either a liar or a moron or both. Because, first of all, there was no information given out by this administration. They are the worst to deal with as far as giving out administration. Secondly, I dare anyone to show one thing I've ever leaked in a national security case. The leaks in this case did come from the administration. On the day the arrests were made, earlier that day, before he was arrested, before Shahzad was arrested, someone in the administration was leaking out where he was from, who he was, and Shahzad himself said he heard on the radio that they knew who he was, and he took off at the airport. So the administration was leaking out this information, and I can tell you, people at the highest levels of law enforcement came to me the following day and said that New York City police officers and FBI agents' lives were put at risk because the administration recklessly leaked out who he was. Shahzad had no idea that law enforcement knew who he was until someone in the administration started leaking it out. I asked the FBI to investigate it, and also asked the Attorney General to investigate it. They did carry out an investigation, said they cannot find out who leaked it. So I'm the one who asked for a federal investigation. If for a moment they thought they had anything on me, you don't think Eric Holder would have done it? It was somebody in the White House who leaked it out. I believe it was John Brennan. He either did it himself or was responsible for it. And I've said before the president should fire John Brennan as his Homeland Security advisor. He's unqualified for the job, and he is basically a control freak who is denying Congress the information they need.
After that, I'm going to give you a chance to take a breath. Okay, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the election, the economy, and that mosque proposed for Lower Manhattan. We'll be right back. Back with Congressman Peter King. Let's talk briefly about that proposed Islamic Cultural Center, which we are calling a mosque, or people are referring to as a mosque, right near Ground Zero. Where do you weigh in on this controversy?
Marvin, I am totally opposed to the mosque being located so close to Ground Zero. Obviously, they have the constitutional right to put it there, but I think it's the wrong thing to do. It's incredibly insensitive, and to me, it's a power play. I don't accept, for instance, that this imam and others are so interested in bringing about harmony between religions. Unfortunately, I have had a number of experiences where I find that leaders in the Muslim community do not cooperate with the law enforcement. I had a major mosque just outside my district, and I remember I used to be very active there. I knew the leaders of the mosque, very close social relations with them, and then found after September 11th they were blaming the Jews for attacking the World Trade Center, and the CIA and the FBI actually didn't say Jews, they said Zionists, which is even more a term of opprobrium. And then since then, there are any number of mosques around this country and Muslim leaders who do not cooperate. I just see this. There's no reason it has to be there. I think it's in your face, and to me, I just don't accept this thing that it's all going to come together and love each other. I'm calling on the Muslim community and the Muslim leadership to be much more outspoken in denouncing al-Qaeda and not trying to qualify it and not trying to somehow, on the one hand this and the other hand that. They have not, and also to cooperate with law enforcement, which they don't do.
You took exception with remarks made by the key backer, Imam Faisal Abdul, this week, who said that this is all designed to strengthen relations between the West and the Muslim worlds. And you took exception. You felt some of his remarks were coercive and even threatening to America.
Yeah, basically he was saying that if this mosque is turned down, or if for some reason the Muslim community cannot go ahead and build the mosque, that's going to put it's going to raise the threat level against Americans around the world. And I saw that as being a threat, an implied threat by him, by saying either you do it my way or American lives are going to be at risk. He should be out front saying that even if the mosque is not built, that there's no way in the world that Muslims should hold this against Americans. Muslims are treated better in this country than they are anywhere else in the world, including Arab countries.
You see any kind of compromise, maybe a multi-religious cultural center or something?
No, because I think it'll still be controlled by Muslim leaders. I think they should move it away from Ground Zero. They should meet with the 9/11 families and find a suitable location. But to me, no matter what you call it, it's still going to be something which is owned and operated by the Muslim community, and that's wrong, so close to Ground Zero.
In the few minutes we have left, let's shift here. Let's talk about the economy, which is the first and foremost thing on the mind of voters in this election. The president had an impassioned speech this week calling for the permanent tax cuts remaining for the middle class in this country. Right. How is Congress going to react to that?
I'm going to react that we need the permanent tax cuts for the middle class, but for everyone. We shouldn't be having class warfare. We shouldn't say if you're making more than $250,000, your taxes should go up on January 1st. First of all, living in New York, a family making $250,000 is not rich. But secondly, we are still barely coming out of a recession. The last thing you want to do during a recession is raise taxes on anyone. So this, to me, is class warfare by the president. Hopefully, after Election Day, he'll see things better, and all the tax cuts will be extended.
What's your assessment? Where do we stand on the economy today?
The economy is doing very poorly. I mean, the president has put us hopelessly into debt. The $800 billion stimulus bill, which was supposed to get unemployment down to 8%, instead it's gone up to 9.5%. And we've lost more jobs. So I think we're still struggling to come out, and the president's spending policies are making it more and more difficult to come out of the recession. Don't
the Republicans have to take some responsibility here? I mean, the Republicans have not been that cooperative with this administration.
Well, the fact is, whether or not we cooperate, he still got everything through. He got his legislation through. We didn't cooperate in the stimulus. We opposed it, but he got the stimulus bill passed. And it hasn't worked. I mean, we're now $900 billion more in debt than we would have been, and we've gotten only a small number of jobs back. We've lost many more.
What do you see as the elixir? What's the magic bullet here? What do we have to do?
I think we have to make a bipartisan agreement to get spending under control, to try to bring it back to the levels of 2008, bring spending back, and I think we should be expanding tax cuts for small businesses. That's the engine that drives our economy.
Okay, 3 weeks from Tuesday, people go to the polls, an election. The Democrats, the Republicans are walking around with smiles these days. The polls across the country seem to suggest that the Republicans are going to topple that Democratic majority.
Yeah, we are in good shape right now. I think if the election were held today, Republicans would probably win the House, maybe even the Senate. But I've been in politics. Yes, I think we have a chance in the Senate if the election were today. But I've been in politics to know that 3 weeks is a lifetime. It's a lifetime in politics. And Republicans, we still have to prove that we deserve it. We have the Democrats on the ropes, if you will, but it's up to us to make sure that people know that we're entitled to be the governing party again. Nothing should be handed to us. And again, 3 weeks is our lifetime in politics.
What's the influence of the Tea Party? People are mad as hell, as the Republican candidate for governor of New York is saying.
Yeah, well, the Tea Party has provided a strong, energized base, and they are providing, I think, an impetus to be able to cut back on spending, and hopefully, that within the Republican Party we can work with them. But again, they are providing a very, very strong base.
So if the Republicans take over the House, you come back as chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee.
Yeah, I should be the chairman. And if we take back the House, Republicans take over the House, I should be chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, which is really my passion ever since September 11th. And especially being from New York, I believe I can do more for New York in that position than I could in any other position, working with the New York Police, Suffolk Police, Nassau Police, State Police, everyone, to make sure that we here are protected in New York and the entire country, and also to stand up to the Obama administration.
Last question as we end this program. As we began, you still see this terror threat of targets in Europe very real?
This is a very real threat. We live in a dangerous world, but this threat is very, very real, yes.
And very important for everybody to remain vigilant. Not stop going. Our alert was to be vigilant, but not to stop traveling Europe.
If you see something, say something. Keep your eyes and ears open. Yes, we have a deadly enemy. Al-Qaeda wants to destroy us.
Congressman Peter King, thank you for joining us on PIX11 Closeup. Nice to have you back here.
It's great. It's terrific being here. Thank you.
Well, that'll do it for our program for this week. If you have any comments or wish to see this broadcast again, log on to our website at WPIX.com/newscloseup, one word. I'm Marvin Scott. Thanks so much for joining us.